What isn't often spoken of is that we're in a great spiritual battle, and what we need in the spiritual battle is spiritual discernment. There's more than meets the eye. Our call needs to be, open my eyes, O Lord, to the wondrous things of your law, and also open my eyes to the unseen things so that we can actually discern what's going on with the principalities around us. Discernment is simply distinguishing between good and evil. What is it? It's a spiritual gift. In 1 Corinthians 12, it says that the Holy Spirit gives us the ability to discern spirits. There are different aspects of discernment. One is being able to distinguish between truth and error. The other is between the seen and the unseen world. First thing, distinguishing between truth and error. Solomon, he was the wisest man who ever lived. What did he ask for? The gift of discernment, distinguishing between good and evil. Adam and Eve, they were actually tricked, deceived by the serpent, because he said that you would be like God, knowing good and evil. But what actually happened is they knew good and evil intimately and lost the ability to discern what good and evil was. What Solomon actually asked for was to be reinstated with that ability that Adam and Eve once had. That is why he's the wisest man. Interpretation is actually a practice that involves discernment. Spiritual things are spiritually discerned. The Bible and life are actually spiritual issues. We need the Holy Spirit and the Bible to be able to discern things. The Holy Spirit leads us into truth, and Jesus said, "Sanctify them by your truth. Your word is truth." Truth builds upon truth and is progressive. In Isaiah, it actually says that we're supposed to do it precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line. We're actually supposed to give a little here and a little there. Truth is also progressive. The saying, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. When Jesus came, he actually expanded on this truth and actually gave it more depth. So another example is with the abolition of slavery. Jesus didn't abolish all of these oppressive practices when he was on earth, but he said that he would send the Spirit, which is the helper, and lead us into all truth so that we could continue this in the future. The second aspect of discernment is being able to distinguish between the seen and the unseen. This is practical, something we can develop. In Ephesians 6, it says that we're not battling against flesh and blood, but we're battling against principalities and powers and rulers of darkness of this age. In 2 Kings, it says that Elisha was with his servant in a city, and the Syrian army encircled around them. He said to the servant, "You don't have to worry because there's more with us than with them." The servant thought he was crazy, but then Elisha prayed, and God answered his prayer and opened the servant's eyes, and he saw all of these fiery chariots around him that he did not see before because he had spiritual discernment. We might not be able to see the angels as Elisha's servant did, but in 1 Thessalonians and 1 John, it says that we're supposed to test the spirits. How do we test the spirits? It's by knowing the different characteristics. In Galatians 5, it talks about the workings of the flesh and the fruit of the Spirit are the things of God, and the workings of the flesh is sin and the things of the devil. A way of detecting the spiritual realm are when things are scary or when things are holy. Think about when you're telling ghost stories or when the hair raises up on your body, or when you're in a church if you're young, and when praises are being sung and your hair stands up then as well. This is to be able to detect a spirit or angels that are around. This is what it says in Job 4. Spirits are angels, and when they present themselves to you, you actually have to determine whether or not they're of God or of Satan. There's a couple ways that the enemy actually can tempt us. One is when Satan comes direct head on to you and speaks to you in your mind and tries to make you fall. That's how Jesus was tempted in the wilderness. Or he can actually use another individual to tempt you, like with Peter. And Peter said, "Jesus, you shall not surely die." And Jesus said to him, "Satan, get behind me." Not only your thoughts are yours. Think about when a horrible thing comes right into your mind. Did you mean for that to happen? In James, it says that when you're tempted, it's not sin to you unless you cling on and desire the thing that enters your mind. A way the enemy deceives you is by placing the thoughts into your mind. He'll say it in first person even, so you believe that you're the one thinking it. A couple examples of this is when you're thinking about doing something good for somebody else, and then right beforehand, you get into an argument or a fight with somebody close to you. You have these irritations arise and you get anxious. Why is all this happening? If you don't discern that it's the enemy trying to pressure you so you can't do something good, then he's going to win. But if you acknowledge that he's a part of the problem, then you can overcome. If you fall and you start getting into a fight and you say something hurtful to the other individual, something pops into your mind, something that he said in the past, and then all of a sudden it comes back, and then you start meditating and dwelling upon these irritations and all the things that are making you angry at him, and then you lash out upon him. He might not even know where it's coming from, the person, but it's coming from the enemy, so he can distract you. After you mess up, you fall or you sin, then you're plagued with this guilt. Even if you apologize and ask for forgiveness for the person or to God, it just keeps on reoccurring, just being forced, repeating in your mind, or some sin that you've done. He's the one that made you fall and forcing it in your mind, because that's how the enemy works, with force, not with freedom of choice, which God gives you. He gives you direction. The voice of God will give you direction. And then when you accept that, he'll give you more direction and lead you. He'll guide you instead of forcing you to think or do. When you're forced to think about something and it's being repeated in your mind, that most likely is the enemy. Over again, he's wanting to conform you, and the way he's doing that is by tempting you over and over and over again. Do this, do that. Whatever you don't want to do, he's making you think about it constantly. How to receive it? Anyone can ask God for it in prayer. In Proverbs chapter 1-3, it actually says that God has understanding, knowledge, wisdom, and discernment. All we have to do is cry out to him. We just have to claim that the Spirit will lead us into all truth. James 1 says if we lack wisdom, we need to ask for God for wisdom, and he'll give it to us generously. We need to choose the good portion like Solomon, and be blessed by God, asking for a spiritual gift instead of a physical blessing. We live in a world marked by the unseen, and it is crucial to understand this reality. The influences we are under, the decisions we're to make moment by moment, requires us to have a spiritual eye in all that we do. We must ask God for this spiritual gift and continually be in his word and be led by his Spirit. Discernment is like a light in the darkness.